pals, it's my birthday, so I decided I would make a video. I've been working on a project where I've been working on making this goddess, this Tara. I can't think of her proper name. She's Tara of the Burning Grounds. And so she's sort of deathy and horrible and fabulous and good. And so I am gonna make another one, or start another one. I spent about a week on that last one. And if you've been watching the videos, you know that I have been kind of playing with multiple video ideas and different techniques. Today I'm all overexposed and in the sunshine, and I'm gonna just go through that process of sort of rough building the base groundwork for it. Last time I did that on a time lapse, and that really cut the process too short. So I'm just gonna go ahead and build it, and it might take me 10, 12, 15 minutes, and I'm gonna chat with you because, I don't know, I think that's cool. I liked it. The last one that I did, which was maybe a little too long, but it was also sort of lovely. And so I'm gonna do that again. And so I'm gonna just start with the corpse that she sits on. That was, I think, from that last piece, one of the parts of the piece that I didn't do the best job with. It was almost an afterthought because I was building down. If you look at it, you can see where it wants to dry first, and that's where I have to work fastest. Any place that's thin, any place that's delicate, the arms and the hands had to be done first. And then, then I came back and I tried to work out the shoulders, and of course the arms and the hands were already set. And so I learned a lot about the process, and that's why I'm going to repeat. I like to work in series. I might make 10 of these before I feel like I really have a process down for multi-armed goddesses, and then it'll just be something that I do, and I don't have to worry about the nitty-gritty of each and every individual one. But I'm going to stay focused on this particular one for that build process because, I don't know, because it's what I want to work with. It's what seems most interesting to me. So this roughing out process is just really super straightforward, really very basic, very direct way of sculpting. I have in my mind, more in my hands, more in my spirit than in my mind, the way the image needs to look, especially now that I've built it once. And I'm going to scale it up a little bit. One of the things that I felt in that last piece is that it was just a little too small, and so that I struggled with things that I didn't necessarily have to struggle with. But of course I've only got, that's maybe another 5 pounds, so I can't go too crazy. So I'm gonna still add just a little bit more. The corpse is sitting, it's kind of laying on its belly, and she has the head of it in her hands. And so just kind of roughing out a torso, the pelvis, and the legs. But it's also her base, and so I want to kind of make sure that I give this top section where I'm going to attach the rest of the body to a little more attention, give it a little bit more thought. Remember that those arms are going to be added in, kind of pinch those out and down. Last time I was just like, yeah, it's a body, I'm going to do it. And so this time it's great to work in series because you get to come back and revisit, rethink again. Really like that. So there it is. I'm going to go with that a little bit there, which you can't really see much of. And I'm going to start in with her leg pieces next. There's another thing that, I have an image that I've been working with. I've got a picture of her. I'm not going to work with that picture very much. I'm going to base everything off of the build the previous build. But I will go back to it. And one of the things that, I sort of thought of you know, sitting in meditation, and what does that look like? And then I went back and looked, and she's in lotus position, and all that with these kind of sculptures is really important. If it's royal ease, or if it's lotus, or if it's half lotus, all those things mean something. And so if you skip over that, or if you modify that, then you're changing the meaning of the figure. And so you want to keep some of those things are rules, and some of those things can be sort of creatively manipulated. Of course, you're the artist, you get to decide, but for me, that's kind of where I try to hold the line. So I'm going to stick this down there with the lotus position kind of already built in, and then I'm going to kind of sculpt it down, get a good solid attachment. I'm not doing any slipping and scoring here. Building solid, you don't really have to. This is going to sit wet together for a while, and so I won't really have to. Of course, then you make the tragic mistake. Everything is possible until you fuck it up, and then you have to rethink. Sometimes if you're that person, then you have to follow all the rules all the time, and it just depends on how much grace you roll with when you work. Everybody's rules are different. For me, this is going to work until, like I said, until I fail, and then I'll come back and I'll sort of re-add the craft. But I like to be able to work a little bit emotionally and a little bit more directly, and the more you calculate, the more you strategize, the further away that you get from that. So there's that portion. Now I'm going to come in with the torso. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about, you know, the last video I started talking about the importance of art and art making. And because it's my birthday, I sort of always take this, and you know, it's right at the end of the year. And so I always take this as an end and a beginning, right? And I think everybody does that with their lives a little bit. You know, you think of your birthday and your birth year in terms of a cycle of time. And so I'm thinking about beginnings. The whole last year has been an ending, one big fat ending after another. And I'm not bitter about that. I'm not. No, really, I'm not. Anyway, so yeah, I'm thinking about beginnings. And so what I wanted to think about with you guys is beginning an art practice. What might that look like if you don't have anything that you're doing, and you want to be doing it? What would that be, and how do you start, and what do you start with, etc.? And you know, there's a billion different ways to answer that, but I thought I would just try and answer it for you and sort of give you some suggestions, some ideas, what can work, what has worked for me. And so as I get that torso with the real waspy little waist, and think about the weight, all that extra weight is up there so that I can carve her tits out, which are delightful. And it seems plenty proportionate. The beginning, right? If you're wanting an art practice and you don't have an art practice, how do you find your way in? I really like the idea of paying attention to the shit that upsets you, right? The shit that bothers you, or that makes you jealous, or the stuff that brings up strong emotional responses. That's the place to look for your direction every time. It's so difficult to want to put your attention there. We want to flinch away from that, but those really deep, intense emotional responses are so often a place to find really juicy information for ourselves and for our lives. And so for me, I was in a political science class. That was my major course of study, because I've always been passionate about causes and passionate about the way that we live and the way that we treat each other, the way that we govern, all those kinds of things. And so I was really going hard into a political science discipline, and I was managing campaigns. I was really successful. I was doing well. And I was sitting next to a girl who I'd known for a long time, and I really respected her. And she, you know, really a good academic. She performed really well in these classes. And so we were just chatting, and she said, I asked her, so what's your major? And she said, oh, it's art. And I was consumed with jealousy. I just remember I couldn't talk for the rest of the class. I was like, she was so put together, and she was so not what I thought of, what an art student was. She wasn't even interesting in the way that you sort of think of artists, She was just the most straightforward sort of average girl, and also a very gifted two-dimensional artist. And her dad was an artist, and that's sort of why she didn't feel like she needed to sort of rep it in any way, like with the strange appearance or whatever. So yeah, for me that, and it was the next semester, I think, that I took my first art class. Whatever, Grace grabbed a hold of me and said, hey, you should pay attention to that. You should just give it a shot and try and see. And so I did. And once I found it, I dropped everything. I changed my major. My parents quit paying for college. They were so fucking pissed off. And I didn't give a damn. I was just like, yep, this is it. This is me forever now. Hooray. And it really has been. I'm not suggesting you throw off your life to do this, but for some people, there is no other way. There is no other thing that's appropriate. And you get out of the way and you do it, or you die. There's really, I know that sounds dramatic, but anybody that's really an artist will tell you either you make art or you die, and that's how we live. Yay, I love it. So there's that torso coming together, and it's looking okay, huh? It's not scaled up to the degree that I wanted it to. It is a little small, so I'm gonna start pushing this a little bit, because I know I'm gonna just remove tons of this material anyway, so I can push it here and try and force it up. So if something speaks to you that way, something, you watch me work maybe, and oh, it just lights a fire in your belly, and you think, I could do better than she can. Well, maybe you can. And maybe you should hit me up. I'm going to be starting a series of classes in January, which is just coming up around the corner. I think they're going to start in 2 or 3 weeks. Hit me up, get me a messenger. I'll make sure that if there's a spot for you, you can have it. Or if it's drawing, or if it's painting. There's so many different ways to learn now. There's so many different opportunities to go hard and sort of really invest in something that you feel like you're passionate about. And so, yeah, don't deny yourself the possibility of engaging in it fully. Once you sort of pick away, once you find something that seems, well, inescapably fascinating to you, it doesn't have to be the full commit to a class. You know what I mean? If sculpting was something you wanted to do, and you wanted to do like a soft sculpture process, like a clay, go get some Sculpey at Hobby Lobby. Get cracking, see what you can figure out on your own. I have a good friend who started that way. And boy, he's making some nice work. He switched into clay, and he's found a good firing scenario, and he's still completely guiding his own journey with it. And he's making some really phenomenally nice work. And so, yeah, you just sort of, what's the easiest way in? Once you've got it figured out, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where the direction I want to go. Then you just begin. And if it's two-dimensional, go get a sketchbook. They're not expensive, and just start making marks. It doesn't have to be anything good. It doesn't have to be something that you would share with anybody. It doesn't have to be something that will ever go in the Smithsonian Institution. Just make the marks. Just sit down and get yourself into the frame of mind where your creativity is flowing through you, your ideas are catching sparks, and one thing is leading to the next. And that's all that art is that process of following the idea down the process and intervening with your body with the creativity, right? It's this really beautiful intersection of your mind and your spirit and your body. And yeah, it's my favorite thing. It really is. It's because it's the best. So another thing that I didn't really like last time was sort of the way that the arms stacked up. And so I'm trying to be a lot more deliberate about that. I don't want to hide the swords, so to speak. You know, I kind of want everything to be angled right and out there at the right spot. So give that a little bit more attention this time. I'm down here on the table rolling a little coil for this arm because I'm not that concerned about getting it just so. I'm just gonna staple it on there, and then I'll modify as I go. But I do see that this one is way too long, so I'll just edit the end there. And it can't be noodly either, right? If I know that there is a bone inside here, which is essential for working with the figure, if you're gonna sculpt bodies, the skeleton is your first consideration, because if everything is sort of blobbity, it's not going to feel very real. It's not going to feel very architectural. The body is very architectural. And if you think about putting in those bones, that's a really great way to sort of hold all that together. Not that I'm repping mad skill here, you know, it's kind of all over the place, but a lot of that gets done in the subtractive process, in the sculpting process. So, I like that. I'm kind of using this leg in a way that is pretty improbable, and I'll liberate this arm later from the thigh, and that'll help it look a little bit more natural. It's just, you know, with clay, you're always kind of thinking and strategizing about how to support, how to control shrinkage, breaking, all that kind of stuff. There's this whole other component to clay that is inorganic chemistry and geology, and all of this. The complexity of firing the material is vast, and that's when you start knowing that you need a teacher, so that if you do go get, you know, your clay and you just get started with the Sculpey and you bake it and you're satisfied with that, then do it. But if you feel like, oh, okay, I really want to level up, I feel like I get the basics and I really want to find a teacher, then you think about, well, what are my priorities? So if it's sculpture, then it can be whomever is sculpting. Boy, I'll tell you, sculpting in stone is gorgeous, so fun, so interesting, and what you make is what you get. With ceramic, because of that whole other massive hidden process of the firing, you really need a master to teach. There's a lot of people out there that offer ceramics but have no idea how it works. You know, they throw it in the kiln. If you've ever been told as a kid, oh, your stuff blew up because you had air bubbles in it, well, that's a damn dirty lie. Your stuff blew up because your teacher fired it too fast, because there was liquid water still trapped inside of the clay. It takes a pretty large air bubble to blow that up. And so finding somebody who's got the chops to really bring what you're looking for is really, really important. Being really deliberate about that. But it doesn't need to be a university scenario. It doesn't need to be something that is going to provide you with a certificate. In fact, after my experience with grad school, I have to say that's the worst way. Unless what you're wanting is an academic career in art, it's far better to just find somebody who can teach what you want to do and go hard at it and see what you can figure out. The academic approach involves all kinds of debt that is completely worthless, and it involves all these other requirements, these academic requirements that, yes, can aid in becoming a more fully realized and well-rounded person, but in the end have very little to do with what kind of artist you're going to be. And some of my very favorite artists have no education in the craft, and they just go at it and they practice it every day, and they're 100% dedicated to what they do, and it's enough. It's absolutely enough. Yeah, put a little hair on her, and this one's getting long again, and I kind of didn't want to do that, but I guess it takes what the time it takes, and I'm glad that you're watching if you're still watching. got this weird asymmetry thing happening on the back. And again, with the gods, I tend to want the symmetry. It's an important part of the information. You know, we think about Plato and the magic of the spheres and all of that kind of stuff and sacred geometries. And I just really feel like the gods are found in symmetry. It's just always been my thing. When I was a kid, I used to want to be an Egyptologist more than anything else. And really what I wanted was to make art about gods. And fortunately, I found my way through that and wound up in the right place. Although I think I could have been a good sort of academic scientist. I think that might have been a good place for me. This is a better place for me. And this is why it's worth continuing to look, continuing to explore. And if you do, you know, feel that passion, if you feel that urge, buddy, better get out of the way and get on that team. I like it. Makes me real happy. Didn't like the way I did the hair last time either, so I'm gonna modify that a little bit. My kids are here. You can hear them squeaking about. It's kind of fun. We're all here doing my birthday thing. Say hi, Emma.
Hello, who's that?
That's a video for Facebook.
Oh. Oh, you put them in already?
No, they're sitting there. I don't know what the temperature is.
Oh, I threw it away.
Oh, well, figure it out, bud.
350.
Almost done. Bit more. Can always stretch it out. That's one of the things that I love so much about clay, is the ability to think and think again. I'm miserable with wood. My God, terrible. Because I fuck it up every time. The wrong cuts ruin the board, and then you're just done. This one's good. I like this base so much more. So anyway, there it is. My little beginning. I'll probably come back and fuck with it for a little bit more, but seems like enough to share. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.